Social media giant Meta is being forced to pay a staggering price for how its platforms allegedly hooked children. Meta has agreed to pay up to $18 billion, that's right, over the next decade to settle lawsuits brought by nearly all US states over claims that Facebook and Instagram were deliberately designed to keep children and teenagers glued to their screens. And this isn't just about money. The settlement could fundamentally change how millions of teenagers use Facebook and Instagram. Under the deal, Meta will restrict teenagers to 2 hours of daily usage unless their parents give them consent. And there's more. Teen access will be blocked between midnight and 6 a.m., while most push notifications will be switched off during school hours, that is from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Meta will also tighten safeguards against children accessing age-restricted content. The big number is the money. Meta will make guaranteed payments of around $12.7 billion. Another $5 billion could be paid if rivals like Snapchat, TikTok and YouTube introduce similar child safety protections. And some states aren't just talking about pocket change. California could receive around $2.2 billion. New York could get about $1.1 billion. And Texas has separately reached a settlement worth more than $1 billion. Now the stakes were enormous. California, Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey were expected to seek nearly $200 billion in civil penalties. Meta, however, has denied all wrongdoing in the settlement as well, and here's the twist. Despite the massive settlement, Meta is not being forced to abandon personalized recommendations or targeted advertising. So the algorithm survives, the business model survives, but the way teenagers access these platforms is set for a major shakeup. The settlement also includes $449 million to resolve the state privacy claims linked to the Cambridge Analytica scandal. And this could be much bigger than Meta. Thousands of lawsuits are still pending against social media companies, accusing them of fueling a youth mental health crisis involving anxiety, depression, and even suicide. So Meta's $18 billion settlement could become the blueprint for a much bigger crackdown on big tech. For parents, it could mean fewer late-night scrolls, for teenagers, fewer notifications, and for Silicon Valley, a very expensive warning. When the algorithm hooks the kids, regulators are coming for the platform. Is Meta's $18 billion settlement a big turning point for big tech or not? That's the question that we are asking. And to discuss more on this, I am being joined by a cyber expert. Pawan Duggal is with me on the broadcast. Mr. Duggal, how do you see this settlement by Meta? Do you think that this $18 billion settlement is going to be a big turning point for the big tech?
I think this settlement is a starting of a new chapter.
Right.
It does not indicate closure of that chapter. It is only a new form of engagement by social media companies like Meta with regulators. Lawsuits will continue to keep on pouring in. More exposures will continue to keep on happening. And the reality is that ultimately, till such time, they do not really fix the business model and their services, which are primarily aimed at trying to make everything very addictive, things will continue to be the same. So if the perception is that, look, with this really $18 billion, everything is fine, and that's the end of the matter, no. It's only a starting point. And I think this will also be a trigger for other jurisdictions to start focusing on finding these social media giants. In the Indian context particularly, the way the services in India have been made to be completely addictive, and yet there's no accountability. I think these episodes will encourage stakeholders and regulators globally, including in India, to go ahead and start reining in the reins and making the social media companies more accountable.
Well, but do you think that we also can see that there are a lot of restrictions that has been introduced to restrict the usage for teenagers and the access to the social media platform? Do you think that a 2-hour daily limit can curb the social media addiction among teens, or do you think that this midnight to 6 a.m. restriction will protect teenagers from this excessive screen time? Because I get it that the accountability there should be some accountability on the social media platform, but I think the larger part of the accountability still is with the parents and the guardians to look after and to make sure that the usage of the children is restricted and it's in a healthy manner.
I completely agree with you. The only thing is I have not looked at the paper, so I can't comment.
Okay.
But one thing is very clear. This is a settlement in the US with US states. So expecting that this settlement will automatically propagate itself globally is an erroneous assumption. So don't expect these things to happen in countries like India. Just as time Indian regulators go with a stick onto them. So look, Meta ultimately realizes the power of money, and they realizes that the best way is to keep on making their services more addictive so that they can continue to keep on generating more monies. And till such time, in jurisdiction specific areas, till such time the jurisdictional regulator does not go after them, they will continue to keep on propagating this scenario. So this settlement is a US settlement, will be applicable in the US. I don't see that happening globally because for other countries, they will still continue to come up with their so-called addictive practices. And as far as 2 hour period is concerned, who is going to police that?
But
And what point of time does that 2 hours start and what time does it close? And then would the parents have any role? We have no clarity. Also, what's the time between midnight and 6 a.m.? Is it US time? Is it GMT time? Is it India time? No clarity. So I think there's a lot of loopholes under which Meta can still walk out of this so-called settlement while continuing to merely do its addictive services business.
But Mr. Dugal, we have seen a pattern where countries are following their restrictions, especially when it comes to children's safety online. We have seen that UK, France, Europe, most of the European countries going for the social media ban for the teenagers. Do you think that there are a lot of, thousands of pending lawsuits against big techs, not just Meta, but other big tech companies as well? But do you think that this settlement is going to pave a way or to set a precedent for other big tech platforms as well? They might have to choose between engagement and child safety and be more accountable towards their teenage users.
I can't agree more with you. I completely endorse that this is the starting point. As I said, it's a new chapter in a book that's being written.
Right.
This is going to be now becoming the reference point, the precedent for other stakeholders in terms of regulators globally. They would want to replicate the same model in their respective jurisdictions. In the Indian context, I would expect the Indian regulators to stand up and say, guys, if this has happened in America, why should it
Right.
not happen in India? More
Right.
so when Section 79 of the IT Act, in any case, mandates service providers like Meta to go ahead and specifically exercise due diligence while they discharge their obligations under law. And further, they are mandated not to conspire or abet in the commission of any offense. So I think it's going to be a opening of a Pandora's box kind of a position. What's happened in US is a signal to other jurisdictions, guys, take this as a precedent, and in any case, start going after the social media companies. Why? Because protecting children seems to be a sovereign priority for almost all sovereigns across the world. Therefore, once you have a precedent like this, almost every jurisdiction would want to walk in that direction for the purposes of going ahead and satisfying their parents, their communities, that they are on the right track.
Mr. Dugal, before I let you go, do you think that restrictions and a settlement like this is going to be effective in India as well, or in any country for that matter? Because what we are getting from the settlement, from the details that we have with us right now, the algorithm is not going to be changed. Of course, you will have 2 hours on social media, but that targeted ads, the targeted algorithm will still remain on the platform. So just hours are being cut off, but the pattern of using social media will remain the same. Do you think that it's effective enough to curb the social media addiction among teens?
I don't think so at all. In fact, what you're currently seeing is nothing but a cosmetic makeover, a
Right,
manifestation.
right.
It's not, in any case, going to be a substantial change in the business model. Why? Because though you're limiting time, you're not doing any due diligence to prevent the addictive services being made available on the other remaining hours, barring the 2 hours. You further, you in the settlement are not bound down by any specific due diligence exercise requirements where you have to be mandated to say, look, henceforth, I'll be doing this so that I make sure that my services, not just in America, but also globally, are going ahead and walking in the direction of making children safe. So Meta has got a documented history of dodging, of going ahead and not complying with the so-called promises and finding one way or the other, loopholes in the other, so that it can continue to keep on generating monies at the cost of youngsters and children as we go forward. So it will have to be seen how this particular settlement is going to be effected. Mind you, this 18 billion is over 10 years. So who's going to go ahead and monitor what happens in each of the day in the 10 years? What will be the parameters? What will be the consequences for them not complying? And what should be the remedies that should be made available to users who find that Meta is seen to be non-compliant with the so-called solemn promises of a settlement? Those are huge issues which open up a Pandora's box. So if you are expecting a dream-like kind of a situation where this particular settlement is going to take place into full effect and implementation without any hiccups, then I would request you to wake up from your slumber. That's nothing like that seems to be happening because of the documented history of Meta to go ahead and try to find loopholes under existing law to keep on making more money.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Duggal, for taking out the time and joining me on the broadcast. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.